Silicon Valley is full of stories, some pretty, some not. This is one of those stories. Bruce Damer and Alan Lundell of the Digibarn tell how Apple got its first manual.
Apple launched this at the West Coast Computer Fair in March, April of '77. And it was the hit of the show. It had this beautiful case, beautiful sort of extruded foam core or whatever plastic case. It was very expensive to make dies for this, but it looked like a real computer. It had all these slots. It could be expanded. It looked like a piece of consumer electronics.
Yeah, and it could do sound and light and color and made
Color.
It made noise. It was fun. It was like doink doink doink, you know, all kinds of noise. Everyone else was much more serious.
And it didn't look like this, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, to open up this, like this North Star horizon, you needed to have a screwdriver, and this is definitely a hobbyist homebrew kind of thing.
This just popped off.
This is popped right off. Just sort of plop it down.
Of course you should have access to your insides.
Yeah, so they made it easy. But the one problem was, one of the problems was there was no documentation. Right? There was the documentation for this was so minimal.
But yet it was so needed, because here was this incredible ability to plug all kinds of cool things into your computer.
You had all these add-on boards, and here's a funny thing. Microsoft was making hardware for the Apple II. This is a Microsoft board to SoftCard 2 and SoftCard 3, which would go right in here, and it would allow you to have more memory, and it would run Microsoft Basic.
And run more stuff.
More basic.
Yeah, I remember we used to have these filled with cards, and invariably they'd interfere with each other and cause the whole thing to short out, or something weird would happen. And so that's when you did, well, what do we do now? And that's when you needed something like Woz would know. He would know how to fix that problem.
So you couldn't always call up Woz and get help.
I mean,
so in the summer of '77, basically, I think it must have been Mike Scott or somebody at Apple basically ordered Woz to go through his filing cabinet and compose and pull out all of his notes and programs and little articles, and said, Woz, we need you to write articles about the Apple II.
It was complex, because some would say that these are the crown jewels of the company. This is how our computer works. Do we want to give that away to everybody? You know, to our competition? He said, well, the other side of it, well, with this out there, all kinds of people will know how to make things run with our computer, and they'll do cool things with it.
Beginnings of the idea of open architecture and open source.
Yeah, both of which
struggling against each other. What came out of all that is this compilation of notes that was given to us by a pack rat former employee of the service department, and this was known as the Woz Wonder Book. And from this humble source came the famous Redbook in January '78. So the Woz Wonder Book become the Redbook, led to an explosion of open architecture, people making cards, software.
Representing a whole kind of way of thinking about building machines and technology.
Look for more tales of Silicon Valley at CNETTV.com.